She checked into room 313 and fell asleep like any other night. But when she woke up, the door wouldn't open. No phone, no window, no proof she'd ever existed. The rain poured like a waterfall from the heavens as Emily Morgan pulled into the small gravel parking lot of the Black Hollow Inn. The GPS on her phone had stopped working hours ago, and her last hope was a flickering neon sign in the fog that read vacancy. She was exhausted, lost, and soaked to the bone. Her business trip had gone sideways. Her car nearly ran out of gas, and this eerie hotel in the middle of nowhere was her last option. Inside, the lobby was strangely elegant, too clean for such an old, secluded place. A warm fire crackled in the hearth, and a chandelier glowed dimly above. Behind the front desk stood an elderly man with silver hair, dressed in an old-fashioned vest. "Welcome," he said in a quiet voice. "You look like you've had a long night." "Yeah, I just need a room. One night." He slid a brass key across the counter. No computer, no ID check, no credit card swipe. "Room 213, he said, almost whispering. "Second floor. Last room on the right." Emily raised an eyebrow. "You don't need any information." The man smiled faintly. "No need. Just rest." She took the key, a chill running down her spine. The hallway to her room was dim and silent. Old wallpaper peeled slightly at the edges, and the only sound was the distant ticking of a grandfather clock somewhere far below. Room 213 had a heavy wooden door and a rusted doorknob. She pushed it open to reveal a surprisingly cozy space. Simple bed, nightstand, mirror, and an old rotary phone. Everything smelled faintly of lavender and dust. After changing into dry clothes, she collapsed onto the bed. Thunder rumbled outside, and soon she drifted into an uneasy sleep. Knock, knock, knock. She shot up. 3 slow knocks came from the wall behind her bed. "Hello?" she called out, her voice shaking. No answer. She waited. Silence. Maybe it was the pipes, maybe the wind. She lay back down. Knock, knock, knock. This time it was louder, closer, right behind her. She turned on the bedside lamp. It flickered and died. Then, the TV turned on by itself. The screen glowed with a static. Emily sat frozen. Cold sweat broke across her skin. Suddenly, a distorted voice emerged from the TV. "Don't open the door," she stared in horror. "Don't open the door," the voice repeated. The old rotary phone on the nightstand rang sharply. She jumped. Trembling, she picked it up. No sound. Then, click. The line went dead. She ran to the door and tried to open it. Locked. The key didn't turn. She twisted the handle, banged on the door, screamed for help. Nothing. No one heard her. She grabbed her phone. No signal. Heart pounding, she backed into the corner of the room, eyes fixed on the door. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt unreal. Eventually, she curled up under the blankets, whispering to herself, "This isn't real. I'm just tired." By morning, light filtered through the window. Emily stood slowly and tried the door again. It opened, easily. Confused and shaky, she grabbed her bag and rushed downstairs to the front desk. The lobby was empty. No receptionist, no fire in the hearth, no signs of life. She opened the front door and stepped outside. The rain had stopped. Birds chirped faintly. A calm, beautiful morning. She turned back to look at the hotel and froze. There was no second floor. Where room 213 had been was just a roof. No windows, no hallway, no room. She stumbled backward, heart pounding. Just then, a man with a broom walked out from the side of the building. "Miss, you all right?" he asked. I stayed here last night in room 213. The man furrowed his brow. "Ma'am, this place hasn't had a second floor in years. Burned down in 83. Emily's voice cracked. "But I was just there." He shook his head slowly. "Room 213. That's the one where that girl vanished. Police never found her. People say her spirit still knocks from inside the walls." Emily looked down. In her pocket, the brass key was still there. Emily drove away from the Black Hollow Inn in silence, gripping the cold brass key in her pocket like a lifeline. Morning light filtered through the forest, casting long shadows across the narrow road. But it didn't bring comfort, only questions. What had happened last night? She glanced at her rearview mirror one last time. The hotel looked ordinary, small, harmless, as if it hadn't swallowed her whole for a night. She drove until she reached the nearest town, a sleepy little place called Hollow Creek. The streets were nearly empty, just a few cars and a handful of people walking dogs or watering plants. It felt too normal after everything she'd just experienced. She pulled into a small diner called Millie's Place. The smell of fresh coffee and pancakes filled the air, and the sound of soft jazz played from a dusty old radio. "Morning, hon," said a woman behind the counter, her apron smudged with flour. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Emily gave a tired smile. "I might have." She sat at the counter and ordered a coffee. As the woman poured it, Emily hesitated, then asked, "Do you know a place called the Black Hollow Inn? About 10 miles out, near the woods." The woman's hand froze mid-pour. "Black Hollow?" she asked, her voice suddenly quieter. "You were out there." "I stayed the night," Emily said. "Room 213. A man sitting in a booth behind her slowly turned around. He was in his 60s, wearing a sheriff's jacket with the name J. Carter stitched above the pocket. His eyes locked onto her with quiet intensity. "Room 213, he asked, voice gravelly. "Are you sure?" Emily nodded slowly. "There was an old man at the front desk, gave me the key. No ID, no guard. The room was on the second floor, last door on the right." Sheriff Carter stood, walked over, and took the stool beside her. "That's not possible." "I thought the same thing this morning," Emily said, "because when I went downstairs, the second floor wasn't there anymore. It was gone, like it never existed." Silence hung over the diner like a heavy fog. The woman behind the counter finally spoke. "That place hasn't had a second floor since the fire, back in 83. Emily's stomach dropped. "I don't understand." Carter leaned in. "Room 203 was where Rachel Donnelly disappeared. She was a college student passing through. Checked in late at night, just like you. Next morning, the room was empty, but the door had been locked from the inside. No signs of struggle, no body. She was just gone." Emily's hands trembled slightly as she held her coffee cup. "I heard knocking from the walls. The TV came on by itself, and The phone rang, but no one spoke. Carter's expression darkened. Others have said the same over the years. No one talks about it much. Folks say Rachel's spirit never left. They say she tries to warn people who stay there. I think she did, Emily said. The TV said, "Don't open the door." I didn't listen. I tried to leave. That's when things got worse. The waitress crossed herself silently. "You're lucky. Most don't come back the same, if they come back at all." Emily reached into her coat pocket and placed the brass key on the counter. The number 213 was etched faintly into it. The sheriff stared at it like it was a loaded weapon. "That key should have burned," he muttered. "We tore down that floor after the fire. There shouldn't be a single thing left from those rooms." Emily whispered, but I was there. Carter picked up the key gently, turning it over in his hand. Then he stood up. "Come with me. There's someone you need to meet." They drove a few blocks to a small, weathered house on the edge of town. A woman in her 70s answered the door, thin, pale, with tired eyes that had clearly seen too much. "This is Margaret Donnelly," Carter said softly. "Rachel's mother." Emily felt her breath catch. Margaret studied her face. "You've been in the room, haven't you?" Emily nodded. "I didn't know what it was until this morning." Margaret motioned her inside. The living room was lined with old photographs, newspaper clippings, and one large framed photo of a smiling young woman. "Rachel, she was supposed to come home that weekend," Margaret said, her voice almost a whisper. "She never did. The police searched everywhere. I knew she wouldn't just vanish. Not Rachel." Emily looked at the photo. Rachel had kind eyes and a bright smile. "I think she's still there," Emily said. "Not alive, but something of her. She tried to help me." Margaret sat down slowly. "You're not the first to say that. Some travelers have seen her reflection, heard her voice, but no one ever sees her twice." Carter nodded solemnly. "People who survive that room, it's like the hotel lets them go. Once." Margaret looked up at Emily. "But if you still have the key, then maybe it's not over." Emily's skin prickled with unease. She looked down at her pocket. The key was gone. In its place was a slip of paper. She unfolded it slowly. "Help me," it read in delicate handwriting. Her heart stopped. It was signed, "Rachel." The paper trembled in Emily's hand as she stared at the delicate, looping script. "Help me. Rachel." Sheriff Carter read the note over her shoulder, his face hardening. "That handwriting matches the letters Rachel used to send her mother. I remember seeing them back in the 80s. Margaret clutched her chest, eyes filling with tears. She's still trapped. After all these years, she's still calling out. Emily sat down, slowly, the weight of it all pressing on her shoulders. But how is that possible? The room, the entire floor, it's gone. Carter ran a hand through his graying hair. That's the question, isn't it? Some folks think Black Hollow was built over something dark, something older than the building itself. A long time ago, there were rumors about that patch of land. People saw strange lights, heard voices in the woods. Margaret looked at Emily, her voice trembling. If she reached you, then maybe you're the key. Maybe she chose you. Emily swallowed hard. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. Carter gave her a sympathetic glance. I can't make you go back. No one should have to face that place twice. But if there's any chance Rachel is still stuck in there and wants out, Emily nodded slowly. Then I can't just walk away. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She stayed in a small inn in town, one with working lights and warm blankets. But the shadows still moved strangely in the corners of her room. Around midnight, she pulled the note out again. Something about it felt alive, like the paper pulsed faintly in her palm. She didn't understand it, but deep inside, she felt Rachel. A sense of urgency, fear, desperation. The next morning, Carter was waiting for her outside in his truck. "I made a few calls," he said as she climbed in. "There's a man in town, Arthur Bell. Used to be a historian. He researched Black Hollow and all the land around it. Bit of a recluse now. But if anyone knows the truth, it's him." They drove to the outskirts of town and arrived at a weathered cabin surrounded by tall pine trees. It looked abandoned at first, but as they approached, the front door creaked open. A tall, thin man with deep-set eyes and long silver hair stepped out. "I heard the engine," he said quietly, "and I know why you're here." Emily blinked. "You do?" Arthur gave her a sad smile. "The hotel. She called to you, didn't she?" Carter frowned. "The hotel called." Arthur nodded. "That place is more than just wood and stone. It's a doorway, a weak spot. Something happened there long before the building went up. A fracture between our world and another." Emily's skin tingled. Arthur gestured for them to come inside. His living room was cluttered with old maps, dusty books, and photos of Black Hollow Inn taken over the years. One black and white image showed the second floor intact. Another showed it after the fire, charred ruins and collapsed beams. Arthur pointed to an old blueprint pinned on the wall. Room 213 was added during the final expansion in the 70s. But the strange part, that room wasn't part of the original design. No one could explain who approved it. Records were missing. It was like it appeared in the blueprints. Carter stepped closer. "You think the room itself is unnatural? I think the space it occupies isn't entirely ours," Arthur said. "Time and rules bend there. People go missing. Voices echo across years." Emily took a deep breath. "Is there a way to bring someone back from it? Someone who's trapped?" Arthur looked directly at her. "Only if they want to return, and only if someone is willing to cross the threshold again. But it's dangerous. The hotel doesn't like to give up its secrets." Emily clenched her fists. "I'm going back." Arthur nodded slowly. "Then you'll need this." He handed her an old silver pendant shaped like a circle with ancient-looking symbols engraved on it. "It's said to protect the soul from getting lost. Wear it close to your heart." As Emily took it, the pendant felt unusually warm in her palm. "I'll drive you there," Carter said, his voice quiet. They arrived at Black Hollow Inn just before dusk. The sky was painted with streaks of red and orange, casting the hotel in eerie shadow. It stood just as it had the night Emily first arrived, quiet, cold, and oddly timeless. She stepped out of the truck, pendant around her neck, note from Rachel in her jacket, and the determination to finish what had begun. Inside, the lobby was still dusty and abandoned. No signs of the old man at the front desk, no guests, no sound. She walked to the staircase. Last time it had disappeared. Now it was there, fully intact. The second floor had returned. She exchanged a look with Carter. He stayed behind as she climbed the steps alone. The hallway was dimly lit, as if the walls remembered the past and refused to let go of it. The wallpaper was peeling. The carpet faded and stained. Each step felt like walking deeper into a dream or a memory. At the far end was room 213. The door was shut. Emily reached out and touched the handle. Cold, heavy. She slid the key into the lock. It still fit, and turned it. Click. The door opened with a soft groan. She stepped inside. Everything was just as she remembered. The flickering lamp, the dusty mirror, the vintage TV set humming faintly, even though it was unplugged. But this time, something was different. The air felt thicker, heavier. And then there was a voice, soft, trembling. "Hello?" Emily turned toward the bathroom. The door was ajar, and behind it stood a girl in her early 20s, wearing a faded sundress. Her eyes were wide with disbelief. "Rachel," Emily whispered. The girl nodded slowly. I didn't think anyone would come." Emily's heart pounded. "I'm here to help. You left me a note." Rachel stepped forward, hands trembling. "I've been here so long. I can't find the way out. Every time I open the door, it leads back to this room." Emily reached for her hand. "Then let's find a new door together." Suddenly, the lights flickered. The walls groaned, and the floor beneath them began to tremble. Rachel's voice rose in panic. "It knows. It doesn't want me to leave." Emily held on to her. "Then we run." And together, they stepped back into the hallway, straight into the unknown. Emily gripped Rachel's hand tightly as the hallway shifted around them. The wallpaper rippled like waves. The overhead lights buzzed with a sickly yellow glow, and the very floor beneath their feet seemed to stretch and contract with every step. "What's happening?" Rachel gasped, clinging to Emily. "It's trying to stop us," Emily said. "The hotel knows we're leaving." They ran. Doors lining the hallway opened and slammed shut by themselves. Whispers filled the air, dozens of voices overlapping, pleading, warning, weeping. "Don't go. You can't leave. Stay with us." Emily fought to ignore them. At the far end of the hallway, she saw the staircase. It looked just as it had when she came up, solid, real. But as they approached, the shadows thickened, and a dark mist began creeping across the walls, curling toward them like living tendrils. Rachel's voice trembled. "That mist, it's always here. It follows me, watches me." Emily tightened her grip. "It won't get you this time." But just as they reached the top step, the entire hallway lurched. The floor behind them cracked open like dry wood, revealing a void of swirling darkness. The hallway stretched impossibly long behind them, like it was trying to pull them back. Emily stumbled but managed to steady herself. She turned to Rachel. "Don't look back. Keep moving." Together they raced down the stairs. The lights above burst one by one with a sharp pop, and the air grew colder, every breath turning to frost in front of their lips. When they reached the lobby, Emily looked toward the entrance doors. They were there, still intact, still closed. But beyond the glass, the outside world looked wrong. The sky was completely black, and thick fog pressed up against the windows. No trees, no streetlights, just endless nothingness. "It's not real," Emily whispered. "This whole place, it's not just a building. It's like we've crossed into somewhere else." Rachel looked around in panic. "I tried the doors before. They don't open, no matter what I do." Emily reached for the front door's handle and pulled. It didn't budge. Suddenly, a loud creaking echoed from behind them. The hallway to the second floor was gone. In its place was now a narrow, endless corridor filled with old furniture, crooked picture frames, and the same dark mist rolling across the floor like smoke. "It's changing again," Rachel said, her voice nearly a whisper. "It doesn't want us to find the way out." Emily thought fast. There has to be another exit, a fire escape, back entrance, something. She remembered the old blueprint Arthur had shown her. There was a service stairwell behind the kitchen, meant for staff. She turned to Rachel. "The kitchen. Come on." They ran through the lounge area, where dusty armchairs and broken chandeliers cast long, twisted shadows. The kitchen door stood slightly ajar, swinging gently as if something or someone had just gone through. Pushing it open, Emily stepped into the cold, steel-lined room. Rust coated the counters, and broken pots littered the floor. The smell of dampness and decay hung thick in the air. Rachel pointed. "There! That door leads down to the storage rooms. There was a staircase before everything changed." They rushed through it. The narrow stairwell was barely lit, the air damp and heavy. As they descended, the sound of footsteps echoed behind them. But when they turned, no one was there. Emily felt the pendant Arthur gave her grow warm against her chest. She touched it, sensing something stirring deep within the hotel's core. A presence, watching, waiting. At the bottom of the stairs, they reached a long concrete hallway. Pipes lined the ceiling. The walls were covered in faded signs and peeling paint. In the distance, they saw a red exit sign flickering above a metal door. "This has to be it," Emily said, quickening her pace. Rachel hesitated. "Wait, something's wrong." Suddenly, the lights began to flicker violently, and a loud crash echoed through the hallway. From behind them came a low, rumbling growl. Emily turned, eyes wide. A shadow moved along the wall, tall, hunched, not human. Its limbs were too long, its movements unnatural. It didn't walk, it glided. Rachel gasped. "That's the thing that follows me, the one that keeps me here." Emily backed toward the exit door. "Don't look at it, just keep moving." But the creature was getting closer. It let out a distorted whisper, like 1,000 voices speaking all at once. "Stay, stay, stay." Emily turned the knob on the metal door. Locked. She pounded on it with her fist. "No, no, no, open." Rachel was frozen in fear. The creature's shadow was only feet away now, stretching along the floor toward them. Emily pulled the pendant from her neck and pressed it to the door. For a moment, nothing. Then a soft click. The door creaked open. Light poured in, warm, golden light from the outside world. Emily grabbed Rachel and pulled her through. They stumbled out into the back of the hotel, falling onto cracked pavement beneath a twilight sky. Trees surrounded them. The air was cool and real. The door slammed shut behind them. When Emily looked back, it was gone. No door, no wall, just a crumbling brick exterior covered in ivy. Rachel blinked in disbelief. "We're out." Emily sat up, heart racing. "We made it. You're safe now." Rachel began to cry, quietly at first, then in deep sobs. "Thank you. I thought I'd be trapped there forever." Emily held her tightly. "You're not alone anymore." Moments later, Carter's truck came roaring around the corner, headlights bouncing across the overgrown path. He jumped out, running to them. "My God, Emily, Rachel." His voice cracked. Rachel looked up at him, her face pale but alive. "Yes, I'm real." Carter stared at her, overwhelmed. "It's been 40 years. Emily looked back toward the hotel, but something had changed. The windows were dark, no lights, no sound, and the second floor, gone again, like it had never returned at all. The sun was rising. Golden rays spilled over the trees, warming the earth and casting long shadows behind the once-forgotten hotel. Emily stood in silence, staring at the crumbling building, its facade dull and lifeless. It looked abandoned now, like something from a dream long forgotten. Except it wasn't a dream. It had happened, all of it. Rachel stood beside her, her eyes red from tears, but her expression calmer than it had been in years. Carter remained close, keeping a steadying hand on her shoulder, as if afraid she might disappear again. "I don't understand," he whispered. "Why now? Why did it let her go after all these years?" Emily turned the small pendant over in her hand. Its glow had faded, but she could still feel a soft warmth lingering inside it. "I think because we faced it, the truth, the fear. It couldn't keep her anymore once we broke through." Rachel looked down at her hands. "I heard the voices for years, saw the hallway change, but no one ever believed me. And then one day, I just stopped trying. I accepted it. I became part of the place." Emily gave her a soft smile. "But deep down, you still wanted out. That's what mattered." They all sat quietly for a moment, letting the stillness settle over them. Carter finally spoke. "We should call the authorities. Let someone know what's here. Maybe they can—" "No," Rachel interrupted. Her voice was firm, almost afraid. "Don't bring anyone here. That place, it feeds on people. Curiosity, emotion. The more attention it gets, the stronger it becomes." Emily nodded slowly. "She's right. We barely got out, and I'm not even sure how long we were inside. It felt like a few hours, but it could have been days." Carter glanced at the hotel, his jaw tight. "Then we seal it, brick it up, bury it if we have to." But Emily shook her head. "You can't bury what isn't fully in this world. That building, whatever force controls it, it doesn't obey our rules. Time, space, logic, all of it changes once you're inside. We were lucky to escape. They decided to leave." As Carter's truck pulled away from the old service road, Rachel turned to look out at the back window. The trees slowly swallowed the view of the hotel. And then, just like that, it was gone, as if it had never been there at all. A month later, Emily sat at her desk, flipping through the worn pages of a leather notebook. It was Arthur's journal, the man who'd helped her find the pendant. Inside were sketches of the hotel, notes about its architecture, and detailed entries describing the disappearances over the years. Some entries dated back to the 1920s. 2 guests vanished. Room 217, no trace. Staff reports hallways changing shape. One maid quit after being trapped for 2 hours. Locals call it the Hollow Inn. Rumors of it shifting locations. Never stays in one place for more than a decade. Emily closed the book, chills running down her spine. The hotel moved. That's why no one could track the reports. Why it would appear for some and vanish for others. It wasn't just a haunted building. It was something much older, something that wore the disguise of a place, but was more like a trap, a living puzzle. She reached for her phone and called Rachel. "How are you holding up?" Emily asked. "I'm okay," Rachel replied. "I still have the dreams sometimes, the hotel, the shadows, but I wake up now. I know I'm free." Emily hesitated. "I think we need to do something more. We can't destroy it, but maybe we can warn others, share what happened. Who would believe us? Maybe no one, but it's worth trying." Together, they created a small online forum and posted their story. They kept the details anonymous, but included photos, sketches from Arthur's journal, and an invitation for others to share similar experiences. To Emily's surprise, messages started coming in. People from different parts of the world described places that matched her experience. Rooms that didn't exist on blueprints, staircases that led nowhere, mirrors that reflected more than just their image. It was all connected. Rachel sent her a message a few days later. "I think it's not just one hotel. I think there are more, and they're all part of the same thing." That night, Emily had a dream. She was back in the hallway. The wallpaper was peeling. The lights flickered, and at the far end of the corridor stood a woman. She looked exactly like Rachel, but younger, confused, and afraid. Emily took a step forward, but the hallway stretched endlessly between them. Then, the walls whispered. She escaped, but not all do. Emily woke up, heart pounding. She turned to the pendant on her nightstand. It glowed faintly again. Something wasn't finished. 1 year later, the story of the Vanishing Hotel Room had become something of an urban legend online. Some treated it as fiction. Others believed every word. But Emily and Rachel knew the truth. And on the anniversary of their escape, they received a package. No return address. Inside was a single photo. It showed a hotel room. Room 217, same wallpaper, same old furniture, but something was wrong with the picture. It bent slightly, as if the room inside the photo was shifting, morphing, and at the edge of the bed, just barely visible, a shadow, long, watching. Emily stared at the photo. It hadn't ended. The hotel was still out there, waiting for its next guest. And this time, it might not let them leave.